My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And we're paranormal investigators who live in the most haunted city on Earth, Savannah, Georgia.
Whether we're in the studio
or out in the field,
we hunt for the stories and experiences where the veil feels thin.
Shout out to our Para-Junkie family on Patreon. This show is only possible with you.
And remember, this is a judgment-free circle. Your experiences matter, your questions are welcome, and the weird is normal.
So cut the lights, turn the volume up, and journey with us into the most haunted city on Earth. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on Earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And today we have a very special guest, and I think the only guest who fits into this subcategory.
Yeah, I've never actually encountered a guest of this caliber, of this style.
Yes.
It's a very specific style because we were discussing before we were rolling how this came to be. Basically, we had a TikTok that featured our cryptid room, which has many life-sized depictions of famous cryptids, and we get this comment on our TikTok from Kim. And Kim, would you kindly tell us what your comment was?
Of course. So I was super excited not only to see your cryptid room, but to see your word search crossword puzzle that you guys can do when you go visit the museum. But I was extremely excited because you guys had the Jersey Devil on there. And I thought that was a little out there for a Savannah museum.
Sure.
Right, yeah.
Because as far as I was aware, besides some of the, paranormal creators that go and visit the Pine Barrens, the Jersey Devil wasn't a myth that left New Jersey. So I commented that I happen to be a relative of the Jersey Devil.
a living relative of the Jersey Devil, and a seventh generation niece. Right, grand niece
so granddaughter, seventh and eighth generation granddaughter, because I come from two of the sons.
Right, straight from mother Leeds, right?
Straight from Deborah Leeds,
right?
Yep.
And but the Jersey Devil himself would have been your uncle,
my great uncle,
your great uncle,
like great.
Yes, but you are the granddaughter, eighth time granddaughter of Deborah Leeds.
Yes. Seventh and eighth time granddaughter, depending on which son you want to go through.
Sure.
Oh wow! And that's just amazing. That it just floored me when you said it, and I was like, oh gosh, do you want to be on a podcast?
I was like, yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever met anybody who could trace lineage like that. Mm-hmm. Because this is something that I don't think many people know. And first off, the Jersey Devil is a very famous cryptid. He is well known in cryptid circles. When people get together and talk cryptids, he's in the top 5, top 10, easy. I think Mothman had bullied his way to the top.
Right.
But really, people know who the Jersey Devil is. And the weird thing about it is, even when you know like the lore, when people tell you the lore, they're like, oh, well, the 13th child of Mother Leeds. No one ever says, well, what did the other 12 children do? What were they up to? Because you just you sort of assume that it's made up. You sort of assume there's no Mother Leeds, is there? But please tell us how you learned.
How did you come to know about this?
So, oddly enough, I did not know anything about the Jersey Devil lore at all. Up until I was about 10 or 11. And we went to visit my grandmother. I live in Florida.
Okay.
And my grandmother moved down and she lives in South Florida. So we went to go visit her. And she just happened by chance randomly in a conversation was like, and it's not like you don't know you're related to the Jersey Devil. And I went, the what?
That is the worst way to find out.
That's so funny, though.
Right. And my grandmother was like, the Jersey Devil. I'm like, I looked at my sister. We were completely lost. And she goes, oh, I'm sure your mom and dad told you. And I was like, no, not at all. So I had to go back to my mom when she picked us up. And I was like, you won't believe the story Mimi just told me, like, she's off her rocker. And then my mom was like, oh, no, it's a thing in New Jersey. You weren't really raised, like, we moved when I was 4. So she's like, you weren't really raised there, but yeah, it's a thing.
Wow.
Cool. So once I found out, I kind of hit the ground running. I asked every relative. I was researching as much as I could. I was pulling out like books and DVDs and CD-ROM because it was way back before like Google was a thing.
Oh, sure.
Trying to like bring up any information. So now I'm like very well equipped in how I am related, who I am related to, all the way up. But I have, oddly enough, I have commented on people's like videos and stuff where they're like, I'm in the Pine Barrens hunting for the Jersey Devil. I'm like, please be nice.
You're like, that's my uncle, please.
He's my uncle.
Well, and it's such
nobody's ever gotten back to me. I think they all think I'm crazy.
It's such an extraordinary claim, but it does bear, reason that because when you start to really look at how it panned out and how the story even exists, it's almost born of like a satire or a satirical attack on this poor woman who had 12 children.
Oh, yeah. A bit, because I know the actual story.
Right.
And then I know, like, the 13th
Yeah, the 13th child of, yeah, right.
But yeah, so other kids did exist. Sorry to burst your bubble. The 13th child did have to have 12
siblings, right?
Right.
To exist as the 13th child. Oh my gosh. So there are a bunch of Leeds family members in New Jersey. Like if you go to South Jersey, you are guaranteed to run into somebody.
Which makes total sense. And to be quite honest, when Chris mentioned this a couple days ago, he was like, oh yeah, so I think I have somebody here who's related to the Jersey Devil. And me reading that initially, I was like, are you telling me that this woman's about to sprout horns on this podcast? Because if so, that's fantastic. Yeah,
ooh,
but also, I'm also like, how does that work? So now because my knowledge of the Jersey Devil was very surface level until I heard that we were going to do this episode. So I was like, okay, let me do a little bit digging. But it makes much more sense that Mother Leeds would have been, obviously she had other kids, so it makes total sense. But do you kind of have an understanding? How does your family perceive Mother Leeds?
It depends on who you ask.
Sure.
That's a lot of kids. I mean, that's a lot of opinions.
That is a lot of kids. But you have to remember, it was back when, birth control wasn't a thing and you wanted to populate, the world. So having all these kids wasn't abnormal. Like my mom is the youngest of 9.
Yeah.
So
No. There's plenty of families who live in that, many sibling life.
What I was just told was, she was a woman who was just a bit down on her luck, but there wasn't much she could do. She went into town, she lived her life, she tried to provide for her kids. And then this family member, created an almanac, got into a fight with Benjamin Franklin.
Yep.
The Jersey Devil myth was born. And then she kind of got her name smeared everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a fascinating thing too that I think is totally glossed over, because when you create an urban legend, when you create a creature, and we talk about this with Slenderman. Slenderman completely made up creepy crawly that people do now say they've seen and experience and have experiences with. When you go back to the source material in the story, it's like, who would really be able to totally devastate someone? Benjamin Franklin. If Benjamin Franklin wants to mess with you, that man can mess with you. You know, if he wants to just like put a little sidebar in his almanac, a little lore to strike out at a competition, you know, his competitors. And that's, you know, when I came across it, I was like, of course, that makes perfect sense, because Benjamin Franklin was notoriously is it catty? Is that what the word I'm
Petty?
looking for? Catty.
Okay.
He was like, "Rah." You know, he was definitely quick to write scathing things. He was very good at it. He was such a good orator, writer. And I'm like, I could just imagine him being like, "Oh, you think you could write an almanac as good as me? Well, let me 12 kids,
Right.
huh?"
And like, thanks so much. You have no idea how much you have affected
I think
my family's life.
right. Like honestly, until right now, I did not picture Ben Franklin as the Perez Hilton.
Yes,
of, you
but
know-
he was. He absolutely was.
He was. So there was Benjamin Franklin obviously had his almanac. Before he really like got that almanac up and running, there was a very famous competitive almanac already in place by a man named Leeds.
Right.
So of course, Benjamin Franklin was like, "We aren't doing that. My almanac is going to be perfect. It's going to be number one." So he smeared Leeds and was like, "This is witchcraft.
Right.
He is the son of, you know, this woman. This woman gave birth to the devil. This and that. This family is
Oh,
the
Thomas
Jersey
Leeds
devil."
was one of the 12?
Leeds. I'm not
Oh,
really
Titan,
sure
excuse me,
like,
Titan.
how he fits in, but I know like he's related to Mother Leeds, so
Right.
he's got to be a son. Like I
Sure.
have
Yeah.
it on Like I Ancestry, so I could go back.
At some point,
like,
I had it that Deborah Leeds was married to the publisher, but it makes sense that it would be
her son.
well, yeah, because by age, like it
Right.
makes more sense
So it
that it
was
would
like
be the
him
son.
and it might be like him and his dad, but it was like
Right?
was
No.
Yeah.
When you look at the years, it matches up better that it would be the son
Yeah.
and not the father.
So I'm like I knew like as I said I read all the versions, so I have like
Oh yeah, no. I would never stop if I had, you know, some familial tie to, like, you know, Sasquatch. I would never stop.
yeah.
That would be
So and then because I was looking back at my family tree to like get accurate information to be like, oh no, because I think I told you I was like, oh, it was like the fourth. I'm like the fourth great grandchild, and then I had to go back and be like, no, I got it wrong. But then I was like looking at the family tree, and I was like, it's just one relative that I'm related to, because she married like her great nephew or something back then. So it was the two brothers. One had a son, one had a daughter, like grandchildren wise, and then they got married and had Anne or D Leeds, and Anne or D Leeds married my relative.
Wow.
And then
yeah, that'll do it. That's almost a straight line, straight
It is.
lineage. You know, no, that's incredible. And yeah, has this ever been a like? How do you broach the subject with people? I mean, do you find yourself like mentioning this in passing, or do you save it for special occasions?
So sometimes I will mention it just casually, like if we're watching, you know, Halloween coming up and everything, they'll have all the specials, and I'll be like, oh, you're watching something on the Jersey Devil? I just happen to know somebody who, it's also a great what is it? Two Truths and a Lie?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Two Truths and a Lie is brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, you
Because
can
everyone's
probably win a
like-
lot of bluffing games.
Oh, absolutely.
With this one.
So everyone's like, I don't think that's right.
It's like, I fear you have not looked at my ancestry.com. Let me show you.
You have not spoken to my mother.
Right. It's common knowledge in my family.
It's, yeah, like, how do you not know? But sometimes I'll just be like, in random conversation, it'll just, I don't want to be like, in just random conversation, it just comes up. But sometimes
I would be
That's
wearing
fair.
a T-shirt every day.
I do have one. that says Jersey Devil. I have books
Fantastic.
in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Well, I have a book here just in case I needed them.
Right.
But I have books, and people would be like, "Why do you have this book?" I'm like, "Well, I had to do family research."
That's amazing. Oh my God.
Which is why I also was like, when I messaged you, I was like, I am not related to Norman. I know we have the same last name.
Oh my gosh.
And then of course, those who don't know, Norman Jeffries, back in ye olden days, decided to take the Jersey Devil myth and claim it as his own.
Yep.
And then took it on like a little sideshow and dressed up this animal as the Jersey Devil and sold tickets so you could come see it.
That was like among my first thoughts. I was like, oh, because it makes perfect sense that if you were related to that Jeffries, you would still be able to claim, you know, a blood relation to
the myth.
To the myth.
No, that is like the one way I'm not related.
Wow.
To the myth.
You just happen to have his last name, the surname. Yeah.
And his last name. And
you can't get away from the Jersey Devil story.
I can't. And I was speaking to my mom about it the other day too. I was like, I need to clarify this just in case they think I'm this other friend.
Right. You don't want to be the humbug family member.
Exactly. And she kind of like bursted my bubble because she's like, South Jersey isn't a big place.
Uh-oh.
You might distantly be related somehow through a cousin to Norman. I'm like, no.
I don't want to claim that. I don't need it. Well, and what's interesting is because I could even see Norman Jeffries in that area, and hearing the stories and asking around and finding family members and formulating this plan to capitalize on the myth. And that fits a narrative that you can easily make, but I do think that's fascinating that you have to sidestep. You have to sidestep the fake Jersey Devil for the real Jersey Devil.
Right.
Like, I'm not related to the guy who like stole the story.
Right. Who try to market it. Yeah.
I might be related to
Well, this is how weird our culture is. So I have a friend who lives in Brooklyn who was hired to play the Jersey Devil in the New Jersey lottery commercials. So New Jersey had these lottery commercials that featured the Jersey Devil. And so my friend was actually literally dressed like a devil and sitting in a tree scratching, lottery tickets. And it's like, it's well known enough, it's have you ever been up to the Pine Barrens?
So I don't want to say my family is superstitious.
Okay.
But because I used to live like super South Jersey. So we have to drive through it to get to where like I live and my relatives live. So we were allowed to drive through it, but my mom was like, we are not stopping. You are not getting out of the car. We are not getting gas in this section. I'm like, and I didn't understand at the time because I was so young, like what she was talking about. And then of course, when I got older, I was like, this is why we didn't stop.
Sure. Wow. Absolutely.
So what was the fear? Was it, they were afraid the Jersey Devil was going to like smell their blood and then come down? Or was it more of a fear of being ridiculed?
I am not 100% certain on it. And especially because my mom is not a Leeds. Like, she married into the family. So this is all my dad's
Oh, God.
side. But, my parents divorced. So, my mom got full custody and she would be doing the driving. So I think hers was just like, I have two little kids and I don't want to like stop.
Sure.
But like my grandmother never stopped. My dad's never stopped. They just drive right through. So
interesting.
Yeah. So
there might be just something waiting for you in the Pine Barrens.
Yes. And like once my sister and I learned, we kind of got freaked out. And
yeah,
we'd be like
it's freaky.
In the back of the car, like looking out windows, making sure, we weren't going to get attacked by a flying dragon
Horse, dragon, goat
horse
thing.
thing.
Right.
Yeah,
All of the above.
Have you ever
all of the above.
have you ever encountered anyone who claimed to have an experience with the Jersey Devil? Have you ever encountered anybody who's like, I went hunting for it. I had an occasion to like see or feel or whatever.
Yes. Two people. So
Wow.
the first one was a cousin on my mom's side who didn't know that my sister and I were related to the Jersey Devil. And they were talking about New Jersey and everything. And he just brought up, he's like, yeah, I went to the Pine Barrens once and I stayed with my friend who lived there and there was weird sounds outside. And then we saw this thing, like we weren't really sure what it was, but I'm pretty sure it's the Jersey Devil. And I'm like, what?
Have I got news for you?
Pretty much. I was like, let me tell you this story. So we did, like, I told him, and he was, intrigued, but also a little freaked out.
Yeah.
Because I think he had sort of convinced himself he didn't see what he thought he had seen. And then to have a relative come out and be like, oh, no, I'm related to. I think he was like, uh-oh, I might have seen what I thought I had saw. And then the other one, I used to teach middle school. And one of the people I used to teach with, he was from South Jersey and used to live in the Pine Barrens when he was in college. And he was like, yeah, we didn't go out at night. You'd have to like stay in your house, lock your doors, because if you went out, like you might see the Jersey Devil. And I had to go out one night and I swear I saw it and this and that. So I told him, he's friends with my sister and I, so I told him the story. And then he had me come in during his class for like 2 years during family genealogy unit.
Oh, fantastic.
To talk about how I
Sure.
was.
That's brilliant. That's incredible.
It kind of like scared the students because they were like, so if we act up, I'm like, don't act up.
Yeah.
And you won't find out.
Well, it's interesting because my introduction to the Jersey Devil suggested that he only came out like once every 7 years. But
Like
when,
Jeepers Creepers?
I literally
Yeah.
was thinking that.
Oh.
yeah, he only came out once every 7 years. But the more I talked to people who were, more cryptid savvy, they're like, no, he's just out there. But the question then became, well, we're pretty sure he's not the result of a demonic curse. Pretty sure that when you're talking to cryptids, they're always trying to pare it down to like likely suspects. And it's like, so is there something out there that people have been saying? And then, somebody like Ben Franklin, I'm not even saying it is Ben Franklin, but someone like Ben Franklin was like, oh, what's that story you're always talking about? The demon in the woods? Yeah, that's a Leeds kid. That kind of notion. Do you have any thoughts as to what it might be? Or are you a proponent of the 13th child, narrative?
So I am not going to lie. I am a proponent. Like I will push the whole 13th child.
Sure. Well,
story.
because it's so
I
well
love that.
crafted, right?
Yes. And I mean, if you really look into it, the amount of people who have claimed to see this cryptid have the exact same description every single time.
Mm.
And it's never changed. No one's been like, oh no, I saw it and it looked like this. It is exactly the same every single time. It is closed down schools.
Really?
There's been a few schools up north when it snowed, they had hoof prints on the roof of the schools. So the schools closed down.
Amazing.
Because there was a Jersey Devil sighting.
Sure.
Because they had hoof prints on the roof.
That's so cool.
I was like, I don't know what kind of animal could have created that. I don't know if somebody just jumped on the roof and was like, I don't want to work today.
Yeah. I mean.
But then I was like, there'd be human footprints with that too.
Right. Exactly.
There's another, you can look into it too. There's another sighting done by Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew. he came to visit. And then when he went back, he wrote about how he had seen the Jersey Devil and it was real and all of this stuff. And I'm like,
Well,
okay,
that's something right there.
Right.
I'm like, he's pretty, he's not going to go back to Napoleon Bonaparte. Like, he saw a devil if he didn't think he was going to be locked up. Like,
Right.
he's got to have some kind of credibility.
And it's such a unique look, because I think a lot of people get in their head that you're talking about a devil, classic,
Right.
man with horns, goat legs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It actually has like almost a horse face, with kind of ram horns, bat wings, and for a long time I was a proponent of
And his tail.
and a tail,
Right.
yeah, huge tail. It's just an amazingly complex,
It's like a
anomalous
thestral
creature,
from
right?
Harry
Yes.
Potter. It's
And there was the hammerhead bat has those features of the head and the bat wings, but of course, not, it's very small. But you get to these ideas that there are creatures out there that probably have enough of the features you're looking for. But it's fascinating when you hear time and time again people coming back that it had this kind of elongated head and this, because it's also much bigger than people think it is. It's over 6 feet. It's a large thing.
Yeah, it's quite, like, massive. Yeah. Like, I want to say it's up there with, like, Mothman on big.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you count the tail, could be up to 12 feet. But, from, like, hoof to horn, it's supposedly between 6 and 7 feet. So, yeah.
I'm like, I like believing that there's this little
sure
cryptid flying around. Like, if people ask me, I'm not going to deny it. I'll be like, yeah, you saw, because
that's an interesting thing too, because I've met a handful of people who've stated they've had run-ins with the Jersey Devil, and in their tales, not one of them said that it flew.
Oh,
they actually all said that it like scurried like past them in some instance. It wasn't flying. And so I always in my head thought of it as like a giant chicken, something that would flap and maybe get a little up, but couldn't just soar through the air. But I definitely had a friend who was driving in his car and he almost hit an animal, and he thought it was a deer. But when he was looking in his side view mirror behind him, just in his taillights, this horrifying thing turned and looked at him. And he, to this day, was like, I'm telling you, it was the Jersey Devil. I'm telling you, it was horrifying. It was not a deer. It was not any animal I've ever seen before.
I will, just to make him feel good, say it was.
Yeah.
He saw it.
Well, we are not
exactly.
We are not in any way, shape, or form deniers. We don't have the bandwidth to be like, that's not true. But it is interesting when you talk about how folklore plays a part of it, and how it spreads, and how somebody can become targeted, and how easy it is to imagine that targeting. But once it takes root, it's as real as anything. Once it's a part of our consciousness, you can't escape it. It will exist as flesh and blood for a lot of people. So yeah, it's amazing.
And I sometimes out of curiosity, I will search social media for the Jersey Devil, and I'll read comments, and I'm just like, y'all are saying some nasty things about this family, and I'm like, cool. You don't know, but
I think
they have family out there that
right.
Well, I think that's one of the things when you first contacted us, it was just like, oh gosh, there's a whole part of the story that is missing, which is the 12 children, because everyone knows the 13th child, but those other 12 children, and to think that they had to basically, because it had to be unbearable at the time when everyone's superstitions were so deep and defining, and you've got somebody out there possibly with Benjamin Franklin's clout saying demon family, and they're like, yeah, Ben, demon family,
absolutely,
and just that kind of persecution, and the fact that it lasted almost 300 years,
right.
that it's still around. People are still, I think we're coming up on like the 300-year anniversary of the tale, of the telling of the tale. And it's like, oh, that's amazing. It's amazing longevity for one thing. But to think that there were family members still out there going, listen, listen.
Well, I love too that the fact that family members exist also kind of null and void some of the theories, because one of the origin stories is that she gave birth to this child. The child changed into the Jersey Devil, offed the people in the house, offed the family, and flew out the window. But if he had offed his siblings,
there would be no family members.
There would be no family members.
Well, and it's interesting because I think my first story was that Mother Leeds, exasperated after 12 children, as she was, giving birth to the 13th one, swore and cursed the child that she was giving birth to, and it came out a bat monster.
That's what I thought.
And went up the chimney, flew out and flew up the chimney, which I was like, okay, but I had heard that Mother Leeds had, congress with the devil, and thereby the child was in fact the child of the devil. I've heard the it came out and killed everyone story, but the problem with it came out and killed everyone story was, how did it become the demon? The missing element of that story was, it came out a monster. It was, and in that story, it's just because it was the 13th child, and the suggestion being the 13th child will be evil.
And that's that. But then, if you had killed all of the witnesses, how does anyone?
Who's got the story? Who knows the story?
Right.
Right.
That's Ben Franklin's story.
That's Ben Franklin. All right. I'm gonna put this in Poor Richard's almanac, and everybody's gonna love it. Right.
Declaration of Independence, and then
I'm moving to France.
Ruin this family.
But honestly, it's so fascinating because I think people just can't. I mean, I was one of those people. You can't get past the horned hooved creature to think about the other kids, because you're like, hold on. But there's a horned hooved creature that came out of a woman. So,
right.
So
exactly.
But regardless, I think my last question, because we're going to have to wrap up here soon. So for your family who grew up in Jersey, was it difficult for them to be like, my last name's Leeds? It's like
So luckily, Anne or Leeds married Enoch Jeffries, so that kind of hid the fact that we were Leeds.
But then you had to avoid being a Jeffries.
True.
So then we all ended up being Jeffries on our line. So it didn't really get brought up. It was kind of like a taboo subject.
Sure.
So they didn't really bring it up. And as I said, my grandmother just dropped the bomb in the middle of the conversation. It was like, hey.
Well, at this point, you're related to celebrity, right? It's
right.
Worth knowing. Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah, because there's a few.
There you go.
From that, because there's a politician who Enoch's son became a representative in the House of Representatives. Oh. His son married Mabel Jeffries, who married Enoch Johnson, who is Snooki Johnson, which is Boardwalk Empire.
Right, Snooki Johnson.
Person.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. So
wow.
Mabel was his first wife, and then they made.
He was the real devil.
He made the TV show Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Or not he made it, but they made it.
That's the story of yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying like that little, but that's all hidden. You wouldn't see. Secretly behind the scenes that, this little gangster guy is also Jersey Devil married into that family.
And maybe
that's fascinating.
That is fun. Maybe he was a 13th something.
Yeah.
And so that's why he turned out the way he did.
Right? Maybe.
That's a lot of blood there. That's a lot of blood.
But I'm saying, like, that whole side, I don't know what happened.
That's fair.
That is fair.
But all right, Kim, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. And honestly, I hope this spreads the truth of the Jersey Devil, because I learned a lot personally.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys for having me. I had a blast. It's so much fun.
Good. Yeah, we'd love to hear more. If you ever find any new stories or things like that, or Grandma decides to drop another bombshell, please let us know. We'd be happy to hear about it.
Unfortunately, Grandma has passed away.
Oh,
but
no.
if my aunt or my dad decide to drop anything else, I will definitely pass it on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again. And thank y'all so much for who are listening to this whenever you are listening. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.